The movie begins with text. As two dudes are shooting off guns now in the background, the two dudes are now the main focus of the shot, and as one of them hides behind a barrier or something, one of them is still shooting and they get shot. The movie begins on a dark night, like many of old Universal monster movies. The movie begins with a kill I won't count, but those two in the background there, they'll be added as our first two kills on the count less than a minute in. The episode begins with a crappy-looking penguin. The episode actually begins with a fart. Fart here wants to play fart ball with road sign, but she's not in the mood, which really upsets Fart. The movie begins in space. As we go through all the parts of space, President Jackson gives us a certain announcement. The episode begins with a kill, a guy in the background getting eaten. The season begins with some really nice shots over San Francisco, which I got to animate in the reanimation done by Coulson Prod. The season begins with Liam trying to find a way to hitchhike to Connecticut. It doesn't take long for two people to stop by in their car to take in Liam. The movie begins outside of Jason Stone's house. It's nighttime, and both Jason and Sally both seem to be doing fine. The movie begins with a warning saying that yes, there will be fast flashing images and lights. The movie begins with a Snapplecap recap of Ember, which sits at a 6 out of 10, making it one of the lowest viewed films in the Time Hero cinematic universe. The music video begins with a shot over a city. It's where this apocalypse began and where the zombies reside, eating people, like what happens to this unfortunate big head. The movie begins in February 1954. It's a place where some blocky dudes are trying to cross a river, but this unlucky fellow here is the one that breaks through the cracks.
Breaks.
The movie begins with showing us what it's like on Christmas Eve. In 15 seconds, we see the main character's house in a title card. The show begins with one of the best openings to any object show, and also most iconic.
Yeah, I know. She was so surprised.
The series begins with a god-awful intro and an age rating that will become ironic by the time we get to the Uncovered Season 6. The movie begins with a greetings and salutations. My name is Raven Akira, and this is Injustice Mortal, a movie where these people fight to the death in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The movie actually kicks off by telling us what happened in 2017. Blind Justice was introduced to America. Oh, and Hyper Blue. The movie begins with an inventory rearrangement for our main character decides to audition for SNL. The movie begins by showing us a whole lot of unexplained disappearances happening on a red carpet. The movie begins by warning you about the southern USA. The movie begins with the British people saying goodbye to the Titanic's passengers. It's where the opening credits take place, and all of these people are going to the United States, hopefully to have a prosperous future. The video begins with Jack Black plugging in a mic for Kyle Gass. The movie begins by telling us you have to go get a homeless guy to watch this. The music video begins by re-establishing us that yes, we are in Robloxia, and that there are in fact zombies. The music video begins with our last good shot of the city. Our 5 human protagonists are still running down the road in search for a working vehicle. The music video begins with a title card. Behind the title card, hey, title card, get out of the way, get out of the way. We see a guy driving down. Holy shit, this looks stellar. The music video begins at the gas station, where prices raise high. And to show advancements in Roblox animation, 2 cars this time. The movie begins with the only sense of danger throughout. The music video begins with a tire rolling down the road. We get some zombie feet as we see a skull and some really nicely lit stuff. The movie begins with 2 girls playing Teenage Torment. A girl named Reagan notices all this torment happening from below. One of the bulliers says that there's consequences to hurting your friends. We're very sorry, but we're gonna have to do this. The movie begins in Shaggy's shed, where Justy only has $3 to her name. The series in arc begins with a lot of cliche object show archetypes. The short begins with a title card. We get led into an interrogation room where Killer Bean's currently asleep on a chair. The video begins with a warning that doesn't warn us about this being a god-awful piece of garbage released in 2014. The short begins this time in widescreen, some opening credits, and a title card. We make it out of there at a bitchin' party with a monotonous music track. The movie begins with the pretty infamous party that goes down during this opening. We see all these beans dancing and looks like a good time in there. This dance number is in the movie because Jeff Liu wanted to be a director of a musical, so this is basically his workaround for this not being a musical. The short begins with an ad for the Killer Bean merch store, which kinda helped make the Killer Bean series possible for the 2 episodes it went. There's also a Patreon shout-out, which probably helped them put Moist Critical in the Killer Bean series, and there's a shout-out for the mobile game. The series begins with a booting up of some exposition about the so-called worker drones. These worker drones are by fictional company JC Jensen, who are in space! The episode begins with N being the butler for a whole bunch of shadowy figures. Damn, how come no one told me there'd be a manor like this? Also, these are some glitchy boys. The episode begins at Prom 3071, where lights are being turned off before it even opens. We immediately get presented to what appears to be an entire board of missing drones. However, this female drone will probably be put on that missing persons report in no time. The episode begins by showing us 3 dead worker drones right off the bat. The episode begins with the Glitch Productions intro finishing on the CRT TV. There is a tape playing on that TV, however. It's about the zombie drones. So basically what leads up to being a zombie drone is that a drone isn't properly disposed of when they get disassembled. They can reboot normally, like JV and N, or not so normally to cause some dangerous mutation. Them being marked for disassembly can be shown through a yellow armband. And in some cases, they can even become disassembly drones. 0.7% of these rebootings can be extremely dangerous and may be able to lead to the death or injury of a human. 29% are terminal lockouts and 70.3% just carry no change. Whatever portion of the tape we see ends in oh my god! The movie begins with someone leaving the lens cap on the camera.
All these years of documenting reduced to shaving!
The movie begins with a Smurfified just walking into the game starting center. This voting screen lets you vote on a map and select your character type, with the LGBT option being changed to a non-binary option. The episode begins with Eric feeling that their win from last episode was a bit unfair. Kinda weird in retrospect how this episode is kinda contradictory. The episode begins with a previously on, showing us a reference and a shark. The videos begin with Meet the Scout, which was released 15 years ago in 2008. Oh yeah, I'm using a compilation that doesn't go by a release date. The movie begins with a guy showcasing some tapes he found at a murder scene. To get to that murder though, we have to get through a lot of glitchiness within the tape. And hey look, it's all fake, don't worry. The episode begins with this season's intro. Turns into a carbon copy of BFB whenever it can, even with the same exact intro music as that season of BFDI. But whatever, whenever I can, I'll take a title card. The anime begins with our black and white headmaster again. It's the same as it always goes. The guy is tied up to a rocket and is launched up into space. As in common with the original game, he also turns into a bastard on the way back down. The OVA begins with conversations with Nagito Kamada. There's nothing exceptional about it except the fact that he sometimes gets into otherwise fatal accidents. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got into this situation. The movie begins with opening credits in, I got this wrong last time. Let me see if I can do this right this time. Oh, in space. Was that enthusiastic enough? The music video begins with a warning in Japanese without translation. That means I had to do it my own way, and it roughly translates to there being some grotesque expressions or visuals within the video. The movie begins in a hallway with a title card. The episode begins at a place in paradise, even though that's just a red herring. What we're more worried about is a worker drone who's trying to hide from something. The episode begins on Earth outside what looks like Hotel Transylvania. Ignore the sentinels outside, seems as if this is the actual Cabin Fever Labs itself. The movie begins in JC Jensen territory. Space! Oh, and title card! The season begins with a previously on poking fun at the fact that Season 6 was going to be the final season at first. After an egregious error, we get greeted to a car ride. The title of the episode is Back to Basics, which serves as a direct allegory for how we're back in Roblox now. And it's also here where it's confirmed that this episode takes place in either July or September 2022. Along with the continuity, this show's timeline is also just a freaking mess. The movie begins with host Trevor Evans declaring that in 2025 the SS Poseidon sank. Wait, no shit, I mean 1973. The wording's just really confusing. The movie begins over to Truan Desert in New Mexico, 23 years after the Moon Wars. We see some people looking over a quote-unquote high-security facility in the middle of said desert. Some guy named Zadkiel says that their men are in position, and by the way he's talking, I think these guys are terrorists. The movie begins with construction of a mugging. An unidentified man is asking another man, Tyrese, for some money, but he won't budge on account of the fucking gun this guy has on him. The movie begins in the hallway of pods. With the main character already having left the movie, she exits one of the pods and registers that there's 10 of them. The movie begins with some really out-of-place drone footage, judging by how the rest of the movie is shot. But I guess all it takes not to be out of place in the scene is a title card! In its 2024 reboot. The movie begins with a trip into a... let's just call it a chasm for now. Inside the cave, we have royalty-free Jason Voorhees just hanging out. Well, he considers that an insult, so he starts the movie's kill count off of Gucci Toilet. The episode begins with a warning, the first kind of such in the series. Sarah returns to the makeout field where it seems as if Violet and Emily aren't there anymore. The movie begins with, oh cool, a crime scene. That means that right off the bat, I have to add a dead body to the count. The series begins with a low-quality landscape and a title card. Our quality becomes higher as we meet the host Kane. He's the ringmaster and your bitch, whose purpose is to get wacky. The movie begins with a whole bunch of mute rough. Like actually, there's a lot of it, even over this poorly drawn city. After we don't see him walk into his house, we get a title card.
I'm fucking different and you're about to find the fuck out, you fucking piece of dog, piece of shit, man.
And those are two bodies, so that's what the movie begins with. We see another body lying on the side of the frame too. During the next minute of the scene, we see 7 more bodies next to some barbed wire fence. The movie begins aboard a train where we meet a young Clarity Rose. Since no one's doing anything on here, might as well strike up a conversation with this guy. The season begins with a manhunt. The movie begins with a cursive title card. Then we get a Roblox classroom that's truly just a relic of its time. Like, what y'all doing with a Goomy Meg boy in a schoolgirl outfit? And what y'all doing with this cool-ass motherfucker in glasses with a mustache? Anyways, they got a new student coming in today, and her name is... The movie begins right in the middle of an act of war, where the guest here gets a bit too worn out. His shooting pal gets shot, so he cries out, title card! The episode begins with the letter H. On Copper 9, it sets the mood of the episode with 33 spiral corpses. That correlates to how many red dots I can count. The season begins with the same dog shit as before. Oh, meatball must consume products in title card.